So, good evening to one and all, and Happy New Year to all of you, and Happy New Year to our speaker Smruti Bhaya. I have already wished him, and he is not a new face on my channel. He has already given three talks. He has the first talk he has delivered. I can remember on neoliberalism,
Yeah.
John Rawls versus Robert Nozick, and he has also given a talk on Gandhi, and the second one I'm forgetting it. So today I requested him to give a lecture on Michael Sandel and his essay. In fact, Michael Sandel has written an essay on procedural republic and on encumbered self. This is an article written by the Michael Sandel. I think in that article, he is trying to, show the relevance of political philosophy and the real world. That political philosophy and real world seems to be different. Seems to be different. There is always a gap between the theory and practice. Principles are one thing, and politics is another. In one sense, political philosophy is unrealizable, and on the other hand, it is unavoidable. Philosophy is from the world. Our practices, our institutions are the embodiments of the theory. To engage in a political practice is already to stand in relation to theory. This is how the philosophy, political philosophy, and the real world, the self, the life of individual is related. Now, in this essay, Procedural Republic and Unencumbered Self, Michael Sandel has addressed three questions. The first question: what is that political philosophy which is implicit in our practices and institutions? And the second question, how does it stand as philosophy? The third question, how do tensions in the philosophy find its expression in our present political conditions? In fact, whatever I said, it is written in the introductory part of that article. I hope Dr. Right now he is not doctor, he has already submitted his thesis, and very soon, once he will get the degree, he will become associate professor directly. So I will let me, address him as Dr. Dhal because he is going to get the degree, that's for sure. So I wish Dr. Dhal will address the questions that has been addressed by Sandel in his article. And let's understand the procedural republic and unencumbered self. So with this introduction, I invite Dr. Dhal to start his deliberation on this topic. Yes, Smruti Bhaiya, you can start.
Yeah. Thank you, Himanshu, for the kind words. And yeah, I'm not yet submitted. It'll take maybe one more week to submit. And after that, it is up to the examiners to award the degree or not. So it is not a must. But thank you for the kind words. And also thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak once again. And for a teacher, uh, nothing gives um, pleasure more than speaking to uh, you know an audience, and that too on a topic which you are passionate about. So this essay that I have been given as the uh, subject of today's lecture, um, this essay actually This is a critique of Sandel's critique of Rawls. And if as Himanshu was already pointed out, a few questions regarding political philosophy, theory and practice are also addressed, but that is not a substantial part of the paper, as I understood. And To begin with, I would say that this article is a age it's a part of the communitarian critique that Sandel levels against Rawlsian notion of liberalism, because communitarianism, it has a context. It did not emerge on its own. It emerged as a response to the Rawlsian liberalism. um, so this article is also, rather than um, spelling out the principles of communitarianism, it is more about a critique of the Rawlsian self, and that is the unencumbered self and the procedural republic. And the last two sections are uh, you know these are regarding the American politics, a little bit of democratic and republican, the party system, and also the nation, the idea of nation state, and how it comes into conflict with the liberal idea of the procedural republic that Rawls advocates. So these are the questions which are addressed in that article, which I'm sure you all have. Um, so I will touch upon, because this article is also, I mean, a substantial portion of this article is about Rawls, Kant, and the liberal idea of the procedural republic. So I will also talk about that, and how and why Michael Sandel, uh, is critical of that idea, and then how the idea of, because we are not talking about American politics, so I will talk about the abstract idea of the nation state and how it comes into conflict with the liberal idea of you know the procedural republic. So we'll address these questions, and I will restrict myself to 40 to 45 minutes, and then I think the question answer round should be more engaging, because rather than so rather than making it a one way traffic, it should be a two-way process of engaging with the theme. So many doubts and many queries are actually clarified in the question answer section. So I would look forward to that session. Now, to start with, we should be clear about uh, two um, um, terms. One is deontological, and the other one is teleological. I'm sure this article doesn't have the word deontological, but the article mentions a word telos. Uh, so Rawls and his, Rawlsian notion of the liberal society, of what he calls a nearly just society, is a procedural republic, or the procedural polity. um, it is based on a kind of deontological notion of the self, or deontological yeah, I mean, deontological liberalism. So what is deontological? When you focus on duty, on morality, on procedure, on rights. So this is deontological, and this is this is juxtaposed against teleological, which focuses on a specific set of telos or purpose. It can be also, I mean, this is synonymously used as also goals, objectives, but a better term is purpose. What is the purpose? So this is a Greek word, telos. And teleological theories focus more on consequence, goal. What is the purpose? So any method of analysis where you analyze a policy, a decision, um, if that is based on teleology, that is based on purpose. So if you are judging or evaluating a decision or a policy by its specified purposes, it is teleological. That means the analysis is teleological. And what is deontological? You are not bothered about the purpose, you are not bothered about the goal, you are more concerned with the procedures, the means. That is more of deontology. So Rawlsian, Rawlsian liberalism is deontological liberalism. It is also, and this deontological morality it is associated with Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher. And Rawls is heavily influenced by his notion of the deontology. So uh, Kant talks about this moral notion of categorical imperative, where he gives this universal conception of morality, where where the terms of morality has to be specified in categorical terms, and it is binding. Okay, it is binding on all. I mean, it has that universal, universal. Um, uh, I mean, it has to. I mean, if something is a categorical imperative, it is valid in all, and valid irrespective of time and space. It is universal in nature. Okay, so that means if lying is wrong, if lying is not good, it is not good at all times. It can't be justified because that it promoted a different good, which is which was context specific. So deontological morality is not context specific, so it focuses on means. So Rawls is not that much concerned with morality here, but he is taking the right procedure. So if you are following the procedure and you are not concerned with goals, that or the purpose, then it is deontological. Now, um, there is also another um, aspect to it, that is right over good. Okay, so you will do what is right rather than you will, rather than going for what will bring the result. So Rawlsian liberalism gives primacy to rights rather than primacy to good. That means no specific conception of good will guide the society or the polity. Particularly, see, you also have to understand that Rawls, he see, if you look at the title of the book, it is a theory of justice. It is not the theory of justice, it is not theories of justice, it is a theory of justice. That means one specific theory of justice. So that also attests to the kind of liberal society that Rawls envisions. That means no specific kind of good will guide or determine the nature of polity. And Rawls is of course concerned with creating just institutions. So that means a procedural republic is a republic where rights are given primacy, liberties are given primacy rather than notions of good. So individuals should be left free to decide what is good for them, rather than being determined by any specific conception of good. Individuals should be given the liberties and the rights, so that they will take care of that part which which is concerned with good. So no notion of good life should guide the making of institutions. What is Rawls doing in this book, A Theory of Justice? He's basically concerned with creating some creating the institutions, creating the just institutions, because for Rawls justice is the primary virtue. It is the first virtue. So justice is just not another virtue among other virtues. Justice is the primary virtue, it is the first virtue upon which all other virtues of that polity will rest. So justice has to be the primacy. So and what is justice for Rawls? Justice is nothing but fairness. And what is fairness? Fairness is, from the Rawlsian point of view, fairness is right. So the primacy of right over goods. That means no specific conception of good will guide the polity. Individuals should be given maximum, a set of maximum possible liberties and rights, so that individual will have that liberty and rights to choose what is good for him or her. uh, and if you note, if you analyze Rawlsian theory of justice, you find that Rawls talks about the original position. I'm not sure how many of you have gone through the article that uh, Himanshu gave me. um, so if you read Rawls, and you must be thinking that this the topic is Michael Sandel's article, and why this person is talking about Rawls. Because if you read that article, the entire article is is about Rawlsian notion of justice, Rawlsian notion of the unencumbered self, and the procedural republic. And these two terms, okay, if I may forget, let me just tell you what is the meaning of unencumbered self. Encumber means to hinder, to restrict, to impede. And unencumbered means, unimpeded, undeterred, unhindered. That means, when you are free. So on, and let me also tell you one thing, that this unencumbered, the the term unencumbered self, it is not used by Rawls. It is a pejorative term, or it's a critical term which Sandel uses for Rawls. Rawls never uses this term unencumbered self. So it's a pejorative term. It's a critical term which Sandel uses to describe Rawlsian notion of self. Why? Because because this self, or the Rawlsian liberal self, is a self which is undeterred or unencumbered by any hindrance. That means there is no notion of good which will guide you. So, and what is procedural republic? As I said in the beginning, if the constitutional order, if the polity, or if the just institutions are concerned with procedures only, that means from a, let's take an example. If you are playing a game, you can't you can't decide from the beginning that who will win, or what should be the result of the game. What is justice according to Rawls? You you lay down a set of just procedures from the beginning, so that all the players would know that yes, these are the rules and we will abide by these rules. And then you cannot decide in between. That means once the game is on, you can't decide the rules. This has to be decided from the very beginning. Okay, so Rawls is also talking about that kind of a set of rules which will set the right procedure. Once you are uh, once the just rules and procedures are in place, once these are settled, then polity will go on. The administration will go on, and nobody can complain that it is unjust, because from the very beginning the rules have been set and everybody has given consent to that rules. And this hypothetical position that Rawls talks about is the original position. um, um, and what is this original position? I'm sure you know that Rawls is a philosopher who writes in the in the social contract tradition. You have Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Rousseau, Immanuel Kant. All these philosophers have written in this tradition, and Rawls is carrying forward this tradition. And but Rawls has some new terms. So this original position is not there in the earlier social contract writings. You have the state of nature in the earlier writings, by Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. You have this concept called the state of nature. Rawls is not using that. Why? You know that political philosophy is a reflection of the present, uh, you know present conditions of the society, and of the polity. But this is not to deny that political philosophy tries to address some perennial questions, like what is justice, what is liberty, what is equality. So these are some perennial questions, some eternal. These questions tries to address some eternal values. But what I want to say is that when political theory or philosophy is written, it is written in a context. So and all the political philosophers are prisoners of their own time. There also was no exception to that. So when Hobbes was writing, there was civil war. So that's why you have this, bleak, or a negative picture of society and human nature. By the time Locke was writing, it was relative, stability and peace was there in society. So you find Locke is not that, pessimistic. He's optimistic about social, cooperation, society, and human nature. So likewise, Rawls, when he was writing, um, he was writing in a time when there is already a constitutional order in place. So Rawls did not have to address the question of instability. It was stability was already there. So he was bothered more with the question of justice, not with creating state. It was already there, but he's bothered with creating just institutions. So he talks about the original position and not state of nature. What is the original position? It's a hypothetical um, situation or a thought experiment where you have uh, you are um, you are behind the veil of ignorance, where the participants or the contracting parties do not know about their they do not know about their concrete situations. That means you don't know about your gender, you don't know about your class, you don't know about your caste, you don't know about your community, you don't know whether you are rich or poor. Basically, you don't know anything about yourself, but you have knowledge about what Rawls calls the primary goods, income, self-respect, dignity. There are some elements that Rawls includes in primary goods. So you have a notion of primary goods, you have a notion of how society operates, basic knowledge of economics, politics, and of course human psychology. You know that what matters. What are the things that are valued by human being. You know that. And everybody is expected to be rational, but at the same time mutually disinterested. That means I will not be interested in your condition, neither do I have an interest in my specific condition. We don't have any knowledge about our concrete situations in the society. Why Rawls expects that, and what is the necessity of this kind of a situation? And this is not possible, but this is hypothetical condition. Rawls thinks that if you know about your background and you are entrusted or you are assigned the job to make policies, make just institutions, definitely you will make rules which will favor you because you know what you are. If you do not know about your concrete conditions, you will make policies which will be beneficial for all, number one. Number two, you know that in society there will be poor and there will be rich, but you do not know that whether you are poor or you are rich. What you will do, you will prepare policies or institutions which will, in addition to take care of everybody, which will also have space for taking care of the least advantaged or the most disadvantaged. Okay, and this is they call the maximin formula. That means you are taking maximum care of the persons who have the minimum. Okay, I mean the least of in the society. Why? This is not some charity. This is not an altruistic measure. This is not something moral high ground. No, you choose that the institutions you are preparing or the policy that you are making should favor the disadvantaged only because you fear that if you end up being poor because you do not know whether you are a poor or a rich person when you are in the original position, that means you will prepare or you will make policies or you will create institutions which will favor the least advantaged, means the poor. Why? Because you know there is a possibility that you will be a poor in real society because you do not know your social position. So this is I mean this is why you need the original position. So original position gives you that anonymity because justice is served, I mean justice is best served in anonymity. You know why? Because if you it's like neutrality comes with anonymity. That means you do not know who are the beneficiaries, so you are just you know equally or equitably distributing the benefits. But if you know that that your brother is there, you are there, your son is there, and you are in charge of distributing, definitely there will be bias. So anonymity, you know that means when you do not know about your own self, the policies that you are going to make, the institutions that you are going to create will be more just. Why? Because you will not be biased in favor of him. And even if you are biased, you will be biased in favor of the poor. Why? Because there is a chance that you may be poor in the real society. And this is not injustice according to Rawls, because the see raw you have two principles. Okay, you have the equal liberty principle. That is the principle, and that is the first principle. This is lexically prior to the other principle, to the second principle. So what is lexically prior? Lexicon means dictionary. Lexically prior means like alphabetical order, which comes first. So this principle will come first. That means this will get primacy. Okay, the principle of maximum liberty. The second principle and the second part, that is the difference principle. That means I mean inequalities will be allowed only when it favors the least advantage. Okay, so and that comes that comes in the end. So that means from the beginning Rawls is not talking about the least advantaged. So he's first giving maximum liberty, and the second part sorry, the first part of this second principle is like opportunities and offices, and so the primary goods, it will be equally distributed, and the offices will be open for all. The second part is the different principle. So the point here is that um, this original position that Rawls talks about is needed to create the just institutions, so that nobody will complain that the institutions are biased. No. Why? Because in the original position everybody was there, so you have given your consent there, although it's not a real situation. So Rawls basically uses this as a hypothetical condition or a thought experiment to explain the base of liberal neutrality. So now, taking this as the starting point, if you now try to understand the phrase right over good. What is right over good means? And yes, I also would like to mention here that um, Rawlsian uh, liberalism is critical of both utilitarianism and 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 mm, see, why it is critical of utilitarianism, because utilitarianism um, treats human beings, uh, I mean, it is taking the aggregate interest, or what will be beneficial for maximum number, so the greatest pleasure for the greatest number. So in doing this, what you are doing is, you are taking all the individuals as identical. That means the difference or the distinctiveness of individuals are not taken into account. And the other problem with utilitarianism is that there is a danger that utilitarianism may lead towards majoritarianism. So that means, so Rawls is saying that, if utility, or utilitarianism is not, I mean, it is not compatible with the kind of justice that he is advocating. Because justice for Rawls is fairness, and fairness is right over good. That means right, that individual rights should not be compromised in the name of you know promoting social good. And because if you are promoting social good sacrificing individual rights, it is not justice, it is injustice. And this is utilitarianism. That means you are counting numbers, that if this measure, if this policy is beneficial for this number of people, then we will go for it. So if that is the yardstick, or that is the criterion to evaluate policies, or even to policy making, then minorities will have problem. So Rawls is aware of this imminent, or no, this inherent danger of utilitarianism, and he is critical of that. Um, so why I'm saying this, because you if you read the article which is shared with you, so you find that this the procedural republic and the unencumbered self. What this article does is that, first, Michael Sandel discusses that the distinction between theory and practice on the utility of philosophy. Why he's doing that? Because after discussing what is the Kantian transcendental self, then the what is priority of right over good, and what is the procedural republic, what is the unencumbered self. Sandel is saying that this is the idea of the liberal self propounded by John Rawls, which is of course based on the Kantian ideals of the moral individual, which cannot be treated as a um, you know means to some other end, but human being is an end in itself. Say moral human being is an end in itself. It cannot be treated as an as a means to some other end. So so the point is that um, uh, after writing, or after discussing the Kantian roots of liberal theory, and then discussing how Rawls is anchoring um, his liberalism, that is right over good, how he's anchoring it on a Kantian ideals or Kantian transcendentalism, and then moving on to criticizing it, what is wrong with it. So now comes the, so till now I discussed the liberal idea of self and the procedural republic. Now let's turn to the communitarian part, or the communitarian critique of it. What is communitarianism? It has roots in even in you know um, you know that uh, communitarianism in its modern avatar um, emerged as a response to Rawlsian liberalism. However, it has roots which can be traced back to Aristotle. And you have people like communitarians like Charles Taylor, who wrote the book Sources of the Self. You have Alistair McIntyre, who wrote the book After Virtue. You have Michael Walger, who wrote the book Spheres of Justice, and the kind of complex equality that he talks about. Now, the communitarian uh, critique of liberalism, it it basically argues that the kind of self that Rawls propounds, it is in the words of Michael Sandel, it's a radically disembodied self. And what is the problem with this kind of a self? The problem is that um the self is radically disembodied, in the sense that there is no embodiment, that there is no root, there is no experience. Because see, what is um, you know um, uh, what is a Rawlsian liberal self, and what does it want? That the self should always be in a position where he can step back from his aims, objectives, and goals in his life, and the notions of good in his life, and step back and go to a certain distance, and then evaluate the aims, the goals, and the notions of good life, which are imposed, or at least which are given by the society or by the community. So you know I quote it from that article: no project could be so essential that turning away from it would call into question the person I am. So for the unencumbered self, I quote again Michael Sandel: what matters above all, what is most essential to our personhood, are not the ends we choose, but our capacity to choose them. That means, no individual should be bound, should be restricted by specific notions of good life. So the community notion, so the common good should not bind the individual. The self should always be in a position to evaluate the notion of common good, the notion of good life imposed by the community, and there should always be this exit option. And rather than talking about a community and then exit, it's better, from the Rawlsian point of view, to have a society or to have a polity which is a procedural republic. That means emphasis is on right procedures, emphasis is on just procedures. Now, um, Sandel says that, see, if you look at the Rawlsian original position, the principles of justice and the just institutions are created, they are made when people do not have any knowledge about their community, about their own self. So basically principles are made in abstract, then applied to concrete communities. And this is one of the critics, this is one of the major criticisms against liberal idea of the self, and this is of course by Michael Sandel. But um, you know how can you create just institutions, or constitution in isolation from real society? So you are creating some principles in abstract, and we expect that it will run smoothly in concrete situations. So this is not going to help, because the abstract individual, the unencumbered self, is not in a position to choose. Why? Because he doesn't have any roots, he doesn't have any experience, because he has chosen these principles in isolation from the community. So basically, the points that Dr. Himanshu started with, that this essay talks about the gap between theory and practice. Michael Sandel points about this, that how can you make some policies, and how can you create some institutions which you claim to be just, and then you try to apply it in concrete situation where there is injustice, where there is some notion of common good, where there is a community, and you expect that the individual self is not rooted in community, it has no prior ends, and it is always in a position to evaluate the ends and the common good. So that is not going to help. And the gap between theory and practice that Dr. Himanshu mentioned at the beginning is specifically regarding this, that you can't expect to make philosophy in abstract from the community, and then you are expecting it to work smoothly in practice. So there is a gap in theory and practice. And Michael Sandel argues that this is happening with liberal theory. And basically what Rawls is talking about in the theory of in a theory of justice. And then if you look at the kind of politics, the kind of society that America, or the United States of America has, and he talks about the two parties, and how the idea of nation state, and the national community, the idea of American is the idea of the American state and the American society, and the kind of American idea that it stands for. So Sandel says, on one hand you are saying that you are creating some you are creating a notion of self which is prior to the right, prior to the notions of good. Then how come you have the idea of nation state? How come you have the idea of nationalism? Because nationalism is, nation state is based on the idea of nation. Okay. And it is related to ethnicity, communalism, sorry, community. So the point is that um, theory is an abstraction, philosophy is an abstraction, and if you try to apply as it is in concrete society, in concrete situations, it is, you are actually I mean, you are not able to do that, because in real society you will not be able to do that. And he's showing in the last two sections of the article that how liberalism, or at least the kind of liberalism that Rawls proposes, cannot go hand in hand with the idea of nationalism and the idea of nation state. Why? Because nation state needs a strong idea of community, a strong idea of nation, a strong idea of common good. And and he's talking about the American nation state. I mean, Sandel talks about the American situation, and he shows how the kind of, how the kind of state with so many functions in place does not fit into the kind of scheme that the Rawlsian, Rawlsian notion of right over good proposes. Because in that kind of a scheme, you do not have any specific notion of community and common good. But in practice, that is not the case. American, society claims to be liberal, claims to be, individualistic in nature, but then you are not in a situation, or you are not able to do away with the notion of nationalism, the notion of a strong nation state. Because if you are talking about a strong nation state which will take care of many needs of yours, and then you are talking about the liberal idea of the unbiased state, then definitely there is a mismatch between the theory and the practice. And and in response to this, um, communitarianism talks about the notion or the conception of the politics of common good. Okay, so and also a kind of radically situated subject, which is in opposition to the radically disembodied subject. um, Michael Sandel proposes a radically situated subject, situated self, which will be, uh, you know, which will have this notion of common good. So politics will be guided by the notion of common good. Communitarianism, at least the version propounded by Michael Sandel, it doesn't accept that justice is the primary virtue, or it is the first virtue of the of the social institutions or the just institutions. um, because the kind of procedural justice that Rawls proposes, um, no, it is rejected by Sandel. And Sandel thinks that justice, or at least the concept of justice, which is found in Rawlsian liberalism, is not needed in a communitarian state. You don't need that kind of a notion of justice. So justice is not the first virtue. That means just, so Michael Sandel is not against justice. He's not criticizing justice, but he says that, in a in a in a polity, or in a state which is guided by the notion of common good, you don't need justice. I mean, that means he's not against justice, but he's saying that, you don't need to talk about justice, because common good takes care of the problems. But why do you need justice? When there is injustice, then you to address that, you need justice. Because society, is not equal. You are talking about equality, you are talking about justice, but think of a situation when you have a close knit community, and when the state is guided by a notion of common good, and when the constituent subjects are not radically disembodied but radically situated. When you have a situated self, you don't need the kind of justice or the kind of procedural republic, which is proposed by Rawls. So basically Sandel is proposing a notion of common good, a politics of common good, where a strong notion of community and common good should be there, so that the individual will not be lost. So individual will not, see, Sandel says that, see, if you have a freely floating individual who doesn't have any root, then it does, it so the individual doesn't have any meaningful experience from where he can choose. So these are the problems raised by Sandel in, broadly in his book, Liberalism and the Limits of Justice, and also reflected in this article, where Sandel spends a substantial portion discussing Rawls and Kant, and what is procedural republic. And then he's rejecting them, and he's also showing what are the contradictions in this notion of procedural republic, and how it is not practiced in, in the contemporary American society and politics. And I have already addressed the question, that there is a gap between philosophy and practice. I stop here, but the questions, I would love to address them.
Thank you, Smruti bhai. I mean, you are right. After completing the article, you will get a sense this is a communitarian critique to Rawlsian liberalism. We need to understand the term unencumbered self. Basically, it is a detached self. The self is detached from the community, from the society. And when the self is detached from the community, then self become inexperienced, right? You cannot trust that self, that self can decide what will be the good. And if you look the Rawls theory of justice, on one hand he talks about the procedural republic. I mean, the rule of the game. In the very beginning it is fixed. On the other hand, he is giving the free hand to the individual, right? That individual cannot uh, individual here I think I'm slightly confused, that once the rules are fixed, that individual subsequently can can change those rules or not.
No.
I think
uh,
individual individual cannot change its rule because rules are fixed.
yeah.
If rules are fixed, individual cannot change the rules, then to what extent individual is free? I mean, individual is already limited in the
Yeah.
very beginning, right? I think the communitarian. This is my first, doubt, and the communitarian, you know, critique. It talks about that uh, if that individual is inexperienced and you are building a procedure on the basis of individuals right, individual is inexperienced first, and you are building a procedure or philosophy based on the right of inexperienced individual. I mean, individual which is detached from the society and community, then you are making things clumsy. I mean, it is obvious that philosophy will be like philosophy will be a kind of abstraction. There will be difference in the theory and the practice, because theory has not been derived from the practice. Individual is detached from the society or community. I think Michael Sandel is very true when he is saying that if individual is connected with the community, then there is no need of justice, right? Here, justice becomes communitarian. Justice doesn't become individual, right? So the community will take care of every individual, and individual will contribute to that community. Harmonious relation between the individual and community, and subsequently it will result the harmonious relation between the theory and the practice, the harmonious relation between the political philosophy and the real world. So it was really wonderful. uh, but then after Sandel has said everything, uh, does it mean that John Roll uh, is irrelevant? This is my second you know question. So I raise two doubts. I want you to address those two doubts, then I will go back to the students if they have any questions with that.
Yeah, thank you for the questions, Dr. Himanshu. So, uh, how individual is free if he is bound by the rules? Yeah. See, Rawls, Rawls is of the view that these rules, or these policies, or these institutions, these are created, these are made in the original position when you are rational, and when you are mutually disinterested, and when you are morally autonomous. That means nobody forced you to accept some rules, you yourself made these rules as part of the community, where nobody has any knowledge about the concrete situations of their lives. Rawls thinks that these necessary preconditions ensure that there will be fairness, because you do not know about yourself. If see if you know that you are a teacher, and you are called to make some policies for the government, you will give a maximum salary to teachers, arguing that in teachers are actually you know um, the uh, the most important persons in the community, because they prepare all other all other persons, whether it's doctor, engineer, lawyer. So everybody is taught and trained by teachers, so teachers should get maximum salary. Why you are saying this? Because you are a teacher. So if engineers are called, then engineers will be given I mean they will say that engineers are they are actually building all the infrastructure of the of the state, so they should be given more salary. So likewise, Rawls thinks that if nobody knows about the background, social, economic and political conditions of their lives, and then they are called to make policy, they are called to create just institutions, then the result will be fair, because it will not be biased in favor of anybody. It will be biased in favor of whom? The least advantaged or the poor people. Not because that the people will be altruistic or very high moral ground people. No, because they fear that if they are poor in the real society, because they do not know whether they are poor and rich, that's why everybody favors that. Okay, let's give some benefits to the poor, not because they are good human beings, but because they are rational human beings. They are scared that in real society maybe they will be they are the poor person, so everybody thinks that okay, let's give some benefits to the poor. There should be some social security net, not because individuals are you know so concerned about poor people, but because they think that there is a possibility that they will be fear. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have made these policies yourself, now you are saying that you will not bind, you will not follow these rules, then there is a problem. Because nobody, I mean, these rules were made, all these institutions were created only when you were morally autonomous. So now if you are saying that you do not want to obey these rules, or you don't abide by the rules of the just institutions, then then it is injustice, and this is not freedom that you are asking for. This is something else. This is selfishness, and selfishness is not self interest, because your rational self interest was served when you are behind the veil of ignorance in the original position. You know what was good for you. I mean, you knew what was good for a rational human being, and then you have prepared the rules. Now you have to be bound by the rules, and now because of selfish reasons, if you want to disobey, then it is not good. But however, if you read a theory of justice, there is a section on civil disobedience that Rawls mentions. This section addresses the minority concerns. Rawls thinks that in a nearly just society, still there is possibility that there will be injustice. Like for example, there were injustice for the Afro Americans or the Black Americans in the United States of America, and that was the time when civil rights movement was also happening. Rawls was writing the book around that time, so he addresses that concern in that book. He discusses civil disobedience. That means so the individual has that right to break law, not in a sense like moral legal right, but It's so you have the right, or you have the right to dissent, or civil disobedience, but it is uh, Rawls restricts it to the minority, because there is a possibility that sometimes majorities may do majority may take steps which will go against the interest of the minority. In that context only, minority can reject to the civil disobedience, but otherwise he doesn't. I mean, yeah, the individual is bound by the rules there. So the second question is whether Rawls is irrelevant. Rawls cannot be irrelevant. See, Rawls revived political theory when it was almost dead. Modern political theory, modern means I am talking about the political theory which is post 1971 or post the publication of A Theory of Justice. After that, you read any book on political theory, political philosophy, either it supports a theory of justice or it rejects. It cannot ignore a theory of justice because it provides a kind of base to contemporary political theory. And no matter which kind of regime you are practicing, see, it is political theory, and let's turn to politics in real sense. No matter which political regime is practiced, but many times, or most of the times, the authorities claim to be practicing democracy. Even China is claiming that it is practicing democracy. Russia is claiming that it's practicing democracy, in spite of all the authoritarian practices. So liberal democracy has become a buzzword where nobody can actually, or barring maybe North Korea and a few other states, no other country can claim that it is against liberal democracy. Okay, so in we live in a um, uh, time where liberal democracy has been accepted as the or at least democracy, if not liberal democracy. So in this background, roles cannot be irrelevant because liberalism talks about the right over good. The self is prior to its end. That means, see, I can't be I can't be bound by some social expectations, because that way liberalism thinks that progress is hindered. Because if my goals are already set by my community, my parents, then I will, because then it will lead to what even John Stuart Mill and people like you know I'm forgetting the name. So they were also fearful, or they are also concerned that this leads to a kind of social conformism, where you are conforming to the already expected social norms. So that is against any kind of social progress. So human freedom and the I think the right over good is needed. You can't reject entirely this proposition by Rawls. But yes, nothing is perfect, so that way you can't also do away with the notion of community and common good, as Sandel has pointed out. In practice, you can't do away with the concept of nation state in the modern times. So the idea of nationalism, so there is a midway where liberalism has come to terms with nationalism. So roles cannot be irrelevant that way.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it is all about right over good versus good over the right.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
One
Communitarian
can
is yeah, yes.
good over the right. I mean, okay, in the Rawlsian, liberalism, the self is unencumbered or encumbered.
As pointed out, Rawls is not using this term, as far as I
It's a,
remember.
it's
This is
Sandel has used.
Sandel uses for Rawlsian self, for the liberal self. That Rawlsian self is an unencumbered self, means a self which is, which is
Not guided
unhindered.
by the community.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Self which is not guided by the community. I
yes.
mean they.
Not
I
not
mean
guided
this.
by the common good.
That is what we can say, that the we can use that
It's a
actual will,
it's
real
a
will,
yeah.
general will of
It's a
all.
critical term. Yes.
Yes, I mean there is possibility that individual may be guided by the actual will. Uh, there is possibility that individual may not be guided by the real will. So the actual will, the constitution of actual will, may lead to the will of all, and the entire republic can may fail. Right?
Yeah.
There is a possibility. There is a fear. If the
Communitarians also derive inspiration from Rousseau.
Yes, 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 yes. I mean, they are thinking that if we can ensure that individuals are guided by the real will, and when the individuals will be guided by the real will, only when they think that whole is more important than the part, then only I think there is a possibility of general will. Otherwise, it may end up, will of all. Okay, you are trying to build up general will, but it may end up with will of all. That is a possibility. So thank you, Shmuti Bhaya. I hope that your lecture uh, will definitely help our students. When they will go through this article, they will better understand that article. So I know that only listening to this lecture may not help them to write answer in their exam. So I have already given that material to them, so they have to read, and this lecture will help them, will facilitate them to understand it. And I always want my student to write uh, the summary of this article in their own words, so that they will feel familiar when they will go through their notes. So with this, I'm coming back to my students. That students, if you have any questions, doubt, or observation, you can give. You can give. Uh, okay, Lingaraj is asking. You can also
Yes,
read.
sir. According to John Rawls, say people have to go their original position. I'm not sure what Lingaraj is having in his mind. I'm not clear, but let me answer this question. If I am, um, if I am able to understand it, he's asking about um, how do you, how do you go to the original position, how it is imagined. See, original position, let me make it very clear that it is not a real situation, it's a hypothetical situation, it's a thought experiment which Rawls uses to explain the liberal notion of right over good and liberal notion of justice as fairness. So it is not a real situation that you will enter into that situation, or there is a magic medicine that you take and then forget about your background for some time, and then so it is not that. It is just a hypothetical situation which Rawls uses to build up his theory. There is no possibility of of a situation where you forget your existence, you forget your social class, you forget your gender, you forget your age, you forget your economic background. That is not simply possible. Rawls says that Rawls uses this as a thought experiment, as a hypothetical situation, uh, which is used as a base to support the liberal argument. So it is just that. So people cannot go there. I mean, there is no situation where you'll have the original position as described by Rawls. Yeah.
Okay, there is a hand raised by Himanshu. Himanshu, you can unmute your video and you
But I
can ask.
thought you, but I you are Himanshu.
No, no, no.
Acha, Himanshu Meher. Okay, okay, okay. Yes, Himanshu. Yes.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah, please.
Sir, Rawls' idea like veil of ignorance can applicable in a very poor state. They have no any resource to surviving government and country. That situation can government fulfill needs of people.
No, see, not necessarily what you started with. Uh, um, that is not necessary. What for example, veil of ignorance, which Rawls uses in the original position, it is not. You said that it can be used in a poor country or a poor state. It is not that. When Rawls is writing the book, it USA is relatively, it's a very developed country. So it's not that original position is needed only in the poor societies. Even in developed societies, you may have glaringly or you may have grave instances of injustice. It's not that all the developed countries or developed countries are equitable societies. Developed countries means the GDP is higher, the per capita income is higher, but there is no necessary relationship between a higher GDP or a high per capita income and the equitable society. So the point is that nearly just societies can have grave instances of injustice. So basically, veil of ignorance uh, or the original positions, these are hypothetical conditions which are employed to to justify the kind of theory that has been proposed by Rawls, and there is no need that it is applicable only to the poor countries. In contrast, Rawls says that this model is actually applicable in a nearly just society like USA. Nearly just societies means procedures are in place, and there may be some instances of injustice, but overall the setup is just. So that is nearly just society.
No, I
So
understand Himanshu question in slightly differently. That maybe he is asking the John Rawls whether he's a theorist of elite or he's a theorist of masses. Why I understood in that way. In American context, he has he has experienced the American situation and he has developed. And in America, you will find, the rich, the rich becomes richer. And once, rich becomes richer, the poor becomes poorer. So there is a possibility that, poor may revolt against the rich. Right. So that's why maybe perhaps John Rawls is thinking that the poor people, they must get more advantages. John Rawls is saying that every individual must get the advantages from the state policy, but the least advantages, right? The least advantages, they must get the more advantages of that policy. So does it mean that John Rawls is trying to appease the least advantages, or can we say that John Rawls is a thinker of poor, masses, or he is in fact a protector of elite rich?
Rawls Rawls is not a theorist of or theorist for the poor, but certainly you have a inclination towards distributive justice. Rawls is not theorizing distributive justice, but definitely Rawls is concerned with the problems of poverty, the and he knows that these are the problems which have the capability or which have the potential to destabilize a society. So basically, he's trying to create some just institutions which will take care of the poor people, which will take care of the least advantaged. But at the same time, remember, the lexical priority is not for difference principle. The lexical priority is for the liberty principle. So first, so Rawls is giving primacy not to difference principle, which is biased in favor of the poor. Rawls is not prioritizing the difference principle. It comes later. Primacy is giving to equal liberty principle, where each person should enjoy the maximum possible equal liberty. Okay, so we can't say that Rawls is writing for the poor people, but yes, there is definitely a concern for the poor people. Why? Because Rawls wants stability, that if you have grave cases of injustice, if you have you know um, poverty to a very great extent, you don't find stability for the system, because there will be there will be civil war, there will be revolt, because people
Yeah.
beyond a certain point, if you are not able to satisfy the basic needs of the people, then, and if these people grow in number, these people, if the number increases, then definitely there will be revolution in the society. And Rawls wants stability, so he's not writing for poor, but definitely there is a concern for the poor.
Okay, I mean, stability, is it a requirement of rich or poor? It's a debatable kind of
Yeah,
thing. But certainly, the stability is always required for peace. And John Rawls is trying towards that let that revolution or civil wars not take place, and let the peace of the society continue. So I don't think that students have any further questions. I think the conversation between you and me, that will definitely help them to go through that article and understand that article. So we are at the last part of this event. I want Himanshu Meher to give vote of thanks. And let me tell you about Himanshu, that Himanshu is a person uh, in the in the beginning, in his first semester, he was unable to speak in English. I mean, it's a horrible English, there is no grammar, but you can sense what he is trying to say.
yeah.
And I gave a challenge to Himanshu, that Himanshu, can you correct your English? Then he told that, yes sir, within 20 days I will do that. And after the 20 days, I found Himanshu slightly better, talking English, which can be grammatically less error. You may find less error grammatically, but I can see enthusiasm in Himanshu, inquisitiveness in Himanshu. Uh, so I thought that, okay, let him give the vote of thanks with his correct and incorrect English. Yes, Himanshu.
English, I think English is just a language, and English is just a medium that we are following, because of many problems, including I think the colonial hangover that we still have, and we still have. And I think uh, you know English is just a medium which can be mastered in a few months, or at least manageable, to a manageable or workable extent. I don't think it's a barrier, and I don't think it should scare the students. It's just a language which can be commanded over if you give some sincere effort. In a few months you can master the language, at least to in the working condition.
Yes, definitely. Now Himanshu can give the vote of thanks.
Eh, sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
A very good evening, one and all, and distinguished speaker, Smruti Ranjan Dhal sir, and organizer Himanshu Shekhar Mishra sir. First of all, I would like to say thanks, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Sir, Dhala sir is Dhala sir today have nicely explained about the topic procedural republican procedural republican procedural republic and uh, the last uh, Michael
Unencumbered
Sandel,
self.
Michael Sandel. Sir, I would like to say thanks, sir. Today, today you have mentioned today you have mentioned a topic like Michael Sandel critiques on Rawls, and Rawls liberalism is Rawls liberalism is sir. Sir, I have been nervous, so
No, no, don't be
please.
nervous. You know what? I stammer a lot. So, but did you find me stammering while speaking? But otherwise, I stammer a lot. So don't be nervous. We all are friends here, and I am not from I'm not a native English speaker, and I'm not a that I'm not that big a scholar. So don't be nervous. I also come from the vernacular medium, from the state medium, from the Odia medium, and I'm not that big a scholar. So don't be nervous. We are just friends discussing
Sir,
a topic. Just feel
you have
feel
point
so
out,
comfortable.
uh, sir, you have point out a theory of justice. Theory of justice means sir, you have already nicely explained that, and why roles against utilitarianism, and um, why Michael Sandel critiques on Rawls' theory of veil of ignorance. Sir, uh, sir, those uh, points are very, sir, those points are very special and very knowledgeable for us. So, thank you to giving a brief explanation for student. And last, now I would like to thanks Dr. Himanshu Shekhar Mishra sir giving me this opportunity. Uh, so
You have to I think thank the students who are here listening to the conversation. So without them, this is meaningless. So I
So
really thank.
yes sir, I also like to thanks my dear friends and other participant.
So thank you, Himanshu. I think Smruti Bhaiya has helped you, to whom you should thank. Smruti Bhaiya, these are some of my students. They are actually, uh, they wish to grow, but there are also, incapabilities that is attached to them due to, many situations or due to their original positions. But I usually give them chance so that the moment they speak in public they will become confident,
Yes,
and
true, true.
they will feel that okay, next time we will do better. This is nothing but a kind of pressure I'm
Yeah,
just throwing at them.
yeah.
So on behalf of all, I am thankful to you. I hope this 2023, this year, that will bring more happiness for you. Definitely you will get your degree, and maybe I hope that you will become associate professor as well. So with this I am ending this formal meeting, or ending this event.
Thank
but
you
but
so
be
much.
but be with us. Let me stop the recording, then we can chat.
Okay, okay.